Welcome to this week's Little Saturday podcast. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd is back again this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, and I will be back for both days this Saturday and Sunday. Yeah, it's been a busy couple of weeks, the last couple of weeks. I've been able to join our substitute host, Nick Alberga, and we appreciate his sitting in and giving great info and great opinions and great ideas and discussion about the NHL and the postseason, now into the Stanley Cup final. I've been tied up and busy doing auto racing things. I was at the Indianapolis 500 this past weekend, the greatest spectacle in racing with 300,000 of our closest friends that were there. It was terrific. It was fantastic. It was wonderful. But I will be back again this weekend and looking forward to it. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports. Actually, I was just checking out an article about Colton Parayko of the St. Louis Blues, who was at the Indy 500 this past weekend. I posted it up on our Facebook page as well. So, Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final is complete. So what do you think? Couple of days later, Game 1 where the Pittsburgh Penguins jumped out to a 3-0 lead. The Nashville Predators came back, and the Pittsburgh Penguins won at 5-3, and when you include the empty net goal. So a couple of days later, after Game 1, this is what everyone has worked for 6 months for, gotten through 3 rounds of the playoffs, and this is what we waited for. Wasn't really a great game, was it? I mean, there was a lot of stuff in the game. It was described as weird by just about everyone, but I'm pretty sure that this one is not getting locked in the vault as an instant classic to be rolled out again and again. It was just weird, and it seems as though the best indicator of that is that we've spent 2 days talking about stupid crap like a catfish on the ice and the NHL video review process. I ain't talking about the game at all. We're not talking about the Pittsburgh Penguins and their high-powered offense or the Nashville Predators and their incredible defense. There's a lot of other stuff we're talking about. So let's try and wade through that quickly and then look ahead to game number 2 tonight. Okay, first of all, the video review process. You can like it, you can dislike it, you can have even more extreme views than that. It is not going away. The perception, it looked really bad because the commissioner in his annual State of the Union address says something to the effect of, we like it, it's working perfectly as we had anticipated. Well, that may be the case, but it's not being presented in the right possible fashion. So let's look at the goal that was called back, the Nashville Predators' first goal. When you are explaining it, it took a long time. The review is about 4 minutes long. So, is there a time limit that should be necessary? That's a possibility. Maybe you want to look at that. Maybe you need to take a look at how long it takes coaches before they initiate a review. Do you want to have a time limit for that? Yeah, that's probably a good idea. But when you go to explain the ruling, whether it's through social media on Twitter and then the story that is obligated and posted up on the NHL.com website, don't just recite the rule and the circumstance. At whatever the time is in the first period, a challenge was initiated according to the rule, which you cut and paste, and then put out. That's why it was overturned. Everyone is bitching about this because they have not seen definitive video to overturn the call. If you've got the video, you can snap a photo, put it out. Let people see it. Yes, clearly this was the right call. If that's the most important thing, getting the call right, show the evidence. It's just like in a legal case. Present the evidence, the jury decides. If you had someone in the video review room who decided, along with the officials on the ice, yes, it was offside, show the evidence, and then everybody shuts up about this crap. But as long as you just cut and paste the rule from the rule book, everybody's going to gripe about it for 2 days. And as for the fish on the ice, oh my goodness, I suppose we got to have more investigation into this league-wide policy. Yeah, they've chucked octopi on the ice in Detroit for years, but that's been restricted now pretty much to the start of the game. If it happens outside of that, there's a warning, then there's a penalty given. People are talking about the rats in Florida years ago. Yeah, they put the squash on that. And a couple of years ago, remember a couple of years ago when the Florida Panthers were in the playoffs and a few people threw rats on the ice before the end of the game. They made an announcement. There was a warning. And then when they did it again, there was a penalty called against the Florida Panthers, as there should have been. So this is the way you got to handle it in the buildings now. I guess if people won't behave, you got to start penalizing the team. But this on and on about some catfish for 2 days and how the guy got it smuggled in and he had it wrapped and shoved in his pants and down his gitch. How about we focus on the game? Well, we can't, because the game really wasn't very good. 3-goal comeback. You can try to sell the headline that way. You can try to sell the headline that the Pittsburgh Penguins scored 5 goals on only 12 shots. Well, Pecorino got beat on a really good shot by Jake Gensel. Yeah, they didn't get a shot for half a period. Part of that was because of circumstances, bad bounces, deflections, and the like. They attempted a few shots. They just didn't get through. What do you expect tonight? Well, pretty much the same lineups for both teams. I expect Pecorino will be better. I expect that the Pittsburgh Penguins will get more shots on goal. I think maybe now that we get to focus on the game and both teams have kind of gotten this stuff out of their system and all the distractions leading up to it, because we had 4 days off before the Cup final began. Now you can focus on the game and hopefully put all that junk behind you. I expect Sydney and I expect Evgeny Malkin and the Pittsburgh Penguins to have good games tonight. I expect them to be coming and churning out a bunch of offensive opportunities against the Nashville Predators. I expect Nashville to have to weather the first 10 minutes of the game tonight. And if Pecorino plays the way Pecorino does and can, they will be able to weather that. Then we'll find out if the Penguins' offense is going to be too much for the Nashville Predators' defense. I think that Ryan Johansson being out of the lineup is a big loss. I don't think it's an insurmountable loss. I still think the Preds have an opportunity to win it. I think they got to win tonight, though. If they don't win tonight, then you've got to win 4 out of the potential next 5, and I think that's too big a hill for the Nashville Predators to climb. And if Pittsburgh wins both games to start off the series in Pittsburgh, it could be an even shorter series than many are anticipating, suggesting it's about 6 games. I hope they win tonight. I hope we get the split, headed back to Nashville, and then I'm really excited about the games in Nashville coming up on the weekend. There's going to be an unbelievable atmosphere, whatever the series score is, whether it's 1-1 or whether it's 2-0 for the Pittsburgh Penguins. There's going to be a great atmosphere. It's going to be a lot of excitement, and those people in Nashville really deserve it for having sold out their building this year and really boosted and supported their team. It's been tremendous. There's been an awful lot of talk about the E60 profile on PK Subban as well. Going to save some thoughts on that for the weekend. It aired on Sunday. I got a chance to really watch it again this morning, and it was quite interesting. So we'll have some thoughts on that and the whole PK Subban situation with the Nashville Predators. A couple other stories in the National Hockey League as well. Scott Stevens has resigned as assistant coach of the Minnesota Wild. That's a shame. I thought he was a big help for the team. He's cited family reasons, and it's hard to deny him or be upset about that if you're citing your family as your reason for not being a part of the Minnesota Wild organization. We wish him well in the future. Scott Gomez has signed on to be an assistant coach of the New York Islanders. I don't know, that was kind of an interesting one. Just out of the game, he seemed to kind of bounce around trying to figure out what it is he's going to do next. Obviously still wanted to stay in the game because he was on NHL Network for a while. I didn't think he was great on TV. He was working Devils games for a while. I didn't think he was great there either. I don't know. It's going to be kind of interesting to see how he fits in terms of the NHL alumni coaching staff that Doug Wade is assembling for the New York Islanders. It'll be interesting to see where that works out. Still a couple of head coaching vacancies. Maybe we're going to have to wait until the end of the playoffs, and I don't know if it'll happen even now before the NHL draft. It might be after that. Looking forward to the NHL draft coming up in a few weeks in Chicago. We'll be there to wrap up our season. It's going to be a lot of activity with the awards and the expansion draft, and the bubbling is starting to talk now about potential deals with Vegas and teams. It'll be interesting to see. And of course, with Brian McClellan, the general manager of the Washington Capitals, speaking yesterday and not definitively putting the hammer down and saying, I will never trade Alex Ovechkin, people are trying to read between the lines and take out segments of his comments and interpret, and I believe misinterpret, many of them. We'll dive in a little deeper to this probably on our weekend programs as well. I just don't see any scenario that it's feasible that Alex Ovechkin gets traded from the Capitals' perspective or from the rest of the National Hockey League. So what do you think? There's maybe 3-4 teams that might have an interest. How do you make it work salary cap wise? I just don't see it. I just don't think it's even reasonable to suggest or talk about or discuss. But yes, picking at the scabs is what kind of happens when you have so much time off and only one game every other day or every 3 days in the Stanley Cup final. Lots more to get into this weekend. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis back Saturday and Sunday, 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, at Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, are the Twitter handles. We look forward to the communication back and forth and the discussion this weekend. Going to be good, interesting. Game 2 tonight, and then Game 3 comes up on Saturday, so we'll have a lot to dig into. We'll look for you again Saturday and Sunday.